Hello guys, welcome to Online Web Tutor presented by Preferred Extensions team. I am Sanjay. We are learning WordPress wp-cli tutorials for beginners. This is part number 16. Inside this video session guys, we will discuss about update as well as delete inside manage users. If I back to terminal, let's say that if we want to update some user information, so how can we update via CLI command? So to update any user's data, we have an update command. So simply let's say if I write wp user list, pressing enter. Now these are the users what we have created inside last videos. Let's say that in some case, if we want to update the user information of this third number ID or let's say second number ID, so we have to use called update command for that. Here we have called ID, user login, display name, user email. So let's say that if we want to update this display name, so we have to use call wp. If I type help, let's say user, pressing enter. Now inside this sub commands list, here we have called a update command. If I scroll down, this is a update sub command. Update sub command is used to updates an existing user. If I scroll down, and here we have some examples provided, like if we want to list all the users, so this is the way creating a user, updating an existing user, and so on. So if I get rid of this command panel, let's say that if we want to update this second row number ID and I want to update the name, so let's say that if I clear the terminal, wp user, and before that actually we need to copy the synopsis. So user update, this is the synopsis. If I copy that, go to slide, open a new tab and pasting it here. Now if I close this command panel, let's say that wp user update, and if we go to the synopsis, here we need to provide the primary key value. Either we can pass like user ID, user like username means user underscore login, as well as we can pass like email address. So we want to use all about the ID. So we want to actually use, let's say that user ID is 2. So here let's say ID 2, and if we want to update, if we again go to the synopsis, we want to update either the user password, user nickname, user URL, email, display name, and so on. So inside this case, we want to update this display name, copy, pasting it here, and I want to make it as, let's say, online web tutor, pressing enter. Now as we can see that we have successfully updated this second number ID. If we type the command, something called wp user list, pressing enter. Now inside this list, as we can see that the second number ID is now with the display name of online web tutor. So this is the way to update any of the user detail. This is not only for the display name. We have many more fields available. If we type wp user, let's say wp user list, and inside this, as we know that these are the fields we have available. By default in the tabular format we have ID, user login, display name, user email, user registered, and the roles. Apart from these columns, we have another columns like user password, user nickname, user URL, and so on. If I back to database table, inside this database table we have called wp underscore users, and inside this users table the second number row ID have a nickname of this name, as well as inside this video we have updated the display name as we can see here. So let's say that we are going to update user URL as well as user nickname. Again back to terminal, get out of this command panel, let's say wp user update, second number ID. Now this time I'm going to update with this email address. So copy this email address, get rid of that, and let's say that display name on, sorry, it's not display name, it should be user underscore nickname. So user nice name, and we want the value something like this. Also we want to update the user URL, so let's say user underscore URL. So currently we have called wp-cli.org. Now let's say that we want that the WordPress URL should be the updated URL of that user. Back to terminal, pasting it here, and inside this we are going to update the this email address with this updated nickname as well as user URL. Pressing enter button, and as we can see that we have updated the information. So back to database, reload this page, go at the second number ID, this is the nickname as well as the user URL. We have successfully updated that. Again back to terminal, let's type user list, pressing enter, and inside this as we can see there is no column with the name. So either we can specify the fields, so let's say wp user list. We want all about the fields equal to ID. We want all about, let's say, display name. We want user underscore URL. We want user underscore email. Pressing enter, and invalid field like. So actually we have to display multiple fields, so it should be fields. Pressing enter. Now we have, as we can see, that this is the display name what we have updated, user URL as well as email address. Now in some cases, let's say that we want to delete some users from our database. Inside last video, as we can see that these are the random users what we have generated. Now if we want to remove or let's say delete from our database, so we need to use to call the command delete from our command panel. Also if I type a roles column inside this fields list, now inside as we can see that these all users are basically editor. Now let's say that if we want to delete any specific user, how can we delete that? So I am pressing Ctrl Shift T to open a new tab, zoom in. Now let's say that first of all we need to see the synopsis to delete any user. So help user, pressing enter. Now inside this command list we have a delete command. It will delete one or more users from the current site. If we get rid of that, let's set that wp help user delete subcommand, pressing enter, and this is the synopsis. If I copy this synopsis back to the slide, pasting it here. Now inside this is all about our command. Next we need to provide the primary key like either ID, user login means the username as well as the email address. Now here we have a flag called reassign. In some cases, let's say that a user with the user ID equal to 11 have been created 15th post. Now for after few days or let's say few months, we want to remove that user from our database, means we want to delete that user from the site. So after passing 11th number ID wp user delete 11th number ID, we are going to remove our means database user from the database, but remember their post already exists inside wp post table. As we had discussed that user have some post inside our table. So how can we reassign an ID? Let's say that I want to reassign of 11th number user ID to 255 user ID. So what I will do, wp user delete, what I have to write, wp user delete. Here we need to provide 11th number ID. It will delete, but also we want to reassign all the created posts of this 11th number ID should be reassigned to this 255 user ID. So after typing this, it is going to delete this user, and also it is going to update all the posts or all the data inside our database with this ID. So it means that this user is not going to exist inside anywhere like with the post or anywhere of the data inside our DB. So simply let's understand by deleting some record. So if I get rid of this command panel, let's say that I want to delete this 15th number ID. Go here, simply let's say wp user delete, and we need to pass either ID, username as well as email address. So I'm going to pass 15th number ID. Pressing enter. We are not going to assign any value. It means that this user has no post inside DB. So we want to proceed pressing Y, and before pressing Y, we need to study this line. Just read through that. Reassign parameters not passed, as we can see here, that is, there is no reassign flag. All associated posts will be deleted. It means while deleting this user, all the posts what have been created with this user ID will be automatically deleted. But let's say that if we will pass this parameter, then instead of delete operation, it is going to reassign with this updated ID. So pressing Y. Now user 15 has been removed from the database. If I again check the list, go here, pressing enter. Now inside this list, 15th number ID does not exist. In some cases, let's say that we want to delete bulk users. As we know that these all are dummy users, so we want to delete bulk users from this list. So if I go here, simply let's say wp user, let's say list, and we want to list all editors. So let's editor, and I want field only, let's say equal to ID, pressing enter button. So we have these IDs which is of editor. Again, instead of fields, if I type enter, these all are editors. Now let's say that these users we want to delete from our database. So this is a bulk operation. So simply what we have to need to type, if I clear the console, let's say wp user delete, and inside this we need to pass the user ID. So this time we have bulk user ID. So wp user list, let's say that role equal to editor, as well as we want all about the field equal to ID. Pressing enter button, it is asking about reassign parameter. We want not to associate, like we don't want to reassign any ID because these users, as we know, have no post. So it is, if suppose any post exists, it is going to delete all the posts. So I'm going to press Y, pressing enter button. So it is removing third number user, fifth number user, and so on. We can see that, and it has successfully removed all the editors from our database. If I go here, again check the list. So right now we have three users, which is administrator, author, and author. All the editors successfully now removed from our database. So this is all about, guys, how can we update as well as delete users from our database. So inside this video session, guys, if you went out, then please drop your comment. I will give my reply as soon as possible. So for this video session, guys, thank you for watching and have a great day.